Welcome back to the Crypto Trends Podcast, where we cover all things cryptocurrency, blockchain, Web 3.0, and AI. I'm Robert Croak, and I'm joined by my co-host, Armando Pantoja. Both of us and our amazing team are excited to bring you the best information, guidance, and strategies each and every Wednesday. So follow along and always remember to take notes and take action. Okay, so let's get into talking point number one. Ethereum ETFs get approval. The FIT21 Act also got through Congress. Billions in inflows could push Ethereum to new all-time highs. Armando, with the approval of the Ethereum spot ETFs, how significant do you think this will impact the current Ethereum prices?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is, me and you, we said it, we predicted this down to the month. We said 70, 80% chance in May, and it happened in May. All the naysayers said it wasn't going to happen. The SEC was like coming out against Ethereum. They said it's a security. All the major bloggers, all the major analysts said it wasn't going to happen, and it ended up happening, right? That's why it's so important to watch this podcast, right? But I think that this inflow of capital that's going to come into Ethereum is definitely going to push Ethereum back to all-time highs. All-time high of Ethereum is around 4,800. Right now it's around, I think, right at around 37, 38. But I think that it's going to push it right back to and past where it was, the all-time high was, right? And the reason why is I believe that Ethereum, always said this, I said Ethereum is the easiest case for retail investors, right? Is that Bitcoin, you have to compare it to gold. You have to compare it to a store value. These are concepts that the average person does not understand. But with Ethereum, you say, look, man, it's a worldwide computer. The token is to pay for access to this worldwide computer. And you could do these things like create NFTs. You can create code on there. You could create applications on top of that that could store data for you. The average person, that's way easier for them to understand. So I always said, the last 5 or 6 years, I said Ethereum would one day be the number one crypto on earth. And I think this passing of the Ethereum ETF is paving the way for that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. The ease that ETFs offer could definitely open the floodgates to the new capital into Ethereum and really potentially leading into a new price peak. And also another thing that's really important that happened this week that I've heard no one talk about is the FIT21 Act approval. And that made it through Congress and just has to make it through Senate now. And what that means is the FIT21 Act is the Financial Innovation and Technology Act. And this is so important because if we look at the bigger picture right now of where we're at in the crypto markets, we went from all bad news and all of this negative news just 30, 60 days ago to now it's all really good news. Everywhere we look, there's new adoption. The governments are easing, and I just think it's a really good situation. So with the potential approval of a Solana ETF, as Anthony Scaramucci and Brian Kelly talked about, what do you think this means for Solana, especially given its recent challenges with the SEC? I feel it's all good news, and it's going to be hard for the government to really kind of backtrack now just because everything is going in a positive light. So talk about that and what you think is the future for Solana because it's such a big blockchain and such a great project as it is. Where do you think it goes now if they get approved as well?
Yeah, I got a question for you before we get into Solana. The FIT21 Act was a huge deal for cryptocurrency. Why do you think nobody's talking about this? I haven't heard anybody say it so far,
Well, I think it's because everyone follows each other, and that's what we try not to do. And I think it's because we actually do the work every week to be ahead of the news, to be ahead of the, different aspects of what makes these coins go big or what changes the markets. And I think it's just the research that we and our team do that gets us ahead of the curve because we were all over the FIT21 Act within an hour of it happening. Yeah. Same thing when you called me about Trump's adoption to crypto on his website. These are things that other people are talking about now, but they're not ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
So I think that's why. I think it's just because a lot of people are reactive in their information, getting it from people like us that actually put in the work.
And investment is so important to be proactive because a lot of times the insiders, like with the Ethereum ETF, people say, why did it run up before the announcement? Because the insiders already knew.
Right.
So that's the reason why it was a 30% increase right before the announcement. So by the time the news get out, it's too late. So you have to be on top of these things. That's why it's important to listen to this podcast. Follow me and Robert on social media because we make sure you get the best information. Now, back to the Solana ETF. Now, I think that it's going to be either Solana or XRP, which is the next ETF. And I don't, know which one to be first, but they're both good cases for ETF. And like I said, I think if they do approve a Solana ETF, that's going to be a big turning point for Solana, right? Is that it's not only going to validate Solana as a legitimate cryptocurrency, but it's also going to secure its place in the market. We know that Solana's had a lot of problems in the last few months with the blockchain going down, technical issues. But if they do move forward on that on that Solana ETF, it's going to be huge for that particular token. So with the approval of the Ethereum ETF, that clears the path for Solana to be formed into an ETF, because those blockchains are very, very similar. But the benefits of Solana is that they have faster transaction speeds and lower cost as compared with Ethereum. So I think that if they do approve this Solana ETF, it's going to be huge for the Solana network and also for the token.
And that lays the groundwork for the XRP ETF, which I believe will come soon after, just because we're still waiting on what's going to happen with the settlement, which I assume also is going to go away pretty quickly because of the fact that now, if you look at kind of the presidential race, Trump announces that he's accepting cryptocurrency for campaign donations, for his merch on his website, et cetera, et cetera. So then automatically, boom, you see the Biden's administration backing down because they win the presidency. So it's like now all of a sudden crypto is the big ping pong match of who's going to win the presidency now that the race is narrowed down to Biden and Trump. So I think it was a really, really smooth, strong play by the Trump administration to be first in saying, hey, we're supporting this all the way, because at the end of the day, it really needs to happen from the presidential level to get companies to stop looking to move out of the U.S. and the innovation leaving the U.S. because of the fact that the U.S. has been so hard on crypto for the past 2 or 3 years. So with Trump going his direction and now Biden softening his message, I think it's going to be huge, huge, huge for the crypto space in the coming months and years, because if we don't lose all of that innovation, it's going to really help the U.S. maintain the lead in innovation throughout crypto and blockchain, and it's just going to be incredible. So
the crazy thing is, man, is that even with Trump accepting crypto, even with the FIT21 Act, even with the SEC passing both the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, there's still people out there that's calling it a scam.
Yeah.
Like it's like some kind of cognitive dissonance, whatever it is.
Dissonance.
Yeah. That's it. Well, how can you possibly not see the writing on the wall? Yeah. It's crazy to me. Like, I can understand 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, but now you have to be, I'm sorry to say it, an idiot, not to be able to see that crypto is coming into mainstream adoption.
Yeah, it's crazy, because I had a really dear friend of mine send me a video the other day, and it was a chart, and it was pretty crazy about Bitcoin, but it was doing it in a satire manner and comedy. So my response to him was, I was like, are you sending me this chart and this video because you're making fun of me because I've been telling you all to buy Bitcoin since 2011? Or are you applauding me for being right? And he said, well, let me tell you this. I'm definitely applauding you because I didn't listen. He goes, and we were all at a party the other night and people were talking about how early you were on in crypto and how right you were, even though none of us listened. So for me, it's just awesome. And I love it when people still challenge us on crypto information, because are there going to be cryptos that go to zero? Absolutely. Same as in the startup world. Most of them are going to go to zero. But if you're in on the right projects like we talk about, and you're being an investor and not a gambler, that's why all of you listening and following this podcast and following our Instagram are really learning the ways to be a solid investor in this space. You won't get wrecked like the others that are just out there trying to follow the shillers and get that next 100, 200x coin. So I think it's really important, but let's talk about the approval of the ETFs, the Ethereum ETFs, and what that means of how altcoins are perceived moving forward, because I think this is a huge, monumental approval heading into what we believe is a big altcoin season for us. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So like I said, people don't realize that the approval of the Ethereum ETF also affects altcoins because the vast majority of altcoins are built on Ethereum, ERC20, right? Those are tokens that are built on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, you may, like if I buy, Shiba or buy any other of these ERC20 tokens. Now, to exchange those tokens, I have to pay a little bit of gas. That's what I'm paying to the blockchain to record those transactions. So by the approval of this Ethereum ETF, you've also enabled a world of altcoins that are built on that network. So I think this is actually going to cause a boom in altcoins, right? Is that we both talk about it all the time. We both feel that this next crypto cycle, or the cycle that we're already in, will be a super cycle, right? And we can see, many times gains from many coins, of the top coins, top tokens. But I also think it's going to usher in a massive altcoin season, right? Especially with AI tokens. And we're going to talk about that later. But I think that this is great news for altcoins because, like we said, they're mostly built on Ethereum blockchain.
That really leads us into, let's talk about Ethereum's decision to delay the release of the Pectra upgrade until the end of Q1 in 2025. Ethereum has made so many great inroads with the new programs they're launching to lower gas fees, but let's talk about the Pectra upgrade a little bit, because this is another one that I think is really important moving forward for Ethereum that I haven't heard anyone talk about.
Yeah, so I know some of those guys on the Ethereum development team. And they're some of the best developers in the world, some of the best computer scientists, some of the best mathematicians in the world. These are the best of the best. And they won't move forward unless they're sure that something's going to work. That's the reason why Ethereum has been so flawless in its execution over the last, 9 years, is because the team is very, very precise in how they move forward. So I think that this is a good idea. It actually shows us how much focus they put on quality and effectiveness when they move forward with a lot of these things. So I think the delay is actually a good sign for Ethereum. And I think that it's going to be a big boom for the Ethereum network once it's released in Q1. One of the biggest features I like that they're integrating is Pure DOS. And what that's going to do is going to improve the Ethereum virtual machine. And that's going to improve the developer experience when they're developing DApps or dApps on top of the Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah, it really just highlights their commitment to quality and stability rather than rushing their timeline like a lot of projects do. And I think with this careful approach, it just really speaks volumes to Ethereum's dedication to their platform and why, in the long term, all of these security upgrades are going to just make it really efficient for everyone and just continue to build them as a world leader. So yeah, I think it's a great delay that they're doing, but it's going to be really good for the future of the project.
Also, one of the other features that they're trying to work on is they're going to improve the proof of stake mechanism, right? And a lot of people always have challenges with blockchain. Is they always talk about, especially with proof of work in Bitcoin, they say, it uses so much electricity and this and that. But what you don't understand is that both these blockchains, Bitcoin and Ethereum, they actually incentivize people to use less resources.
Yep.
And what this Pectra upgrade is going to do is going to decrease the energy uses on the blockchain, right? On the Ethereum blockchain. So as we move forward with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many other coins, the electricity concerns will go down over time. Either people will replace them with more efficient sources or either zero sources like volcanoes. They do it in El Salvador, solar power. I even imagine one day that we'll have satellites around the sun and it'll get direct energy from the sun. And that's how we'll mine Bitcoin and other coins in the future.
Yeah, it just really kind of rallies us to a point that I want to add in today, and that is thinking about NVIDIA last week, crushing their earnings. We've been hearing so many people for months and months talking about how, AI is in a bubble and crypto this and crypto that, all of this negativity. But if you look now, NVIDIA is still crushing it. They just announced the 10-to-1 stock split, which is going to be great for the retail market, getting the stock price down from 1,100 or 1,050, whatever it is, down to 105, which is going to be amazing for the average retail investor that wants wants to get in on NVIDIA, but then also what that does to the AI market in crypto. If everyone isn't aware, the ASI merger is now finished, complete, and launched, and you can now buy the ASI token through the Coinbase wallet, which I think is going to be incredible because we both loved all the projects that merged into the ASI coin. So I think this is huge as well, and it just really speaks volumes that while most people we deal with in our DMs and through our public lives on TikTok or Instagram that we do and in our community, is it feels like they're always looking for the negative rather than really looking more at a macro scale and seeing all of the positives. We could spend an hour right now on this podcast just talking about all the positive news, yet what happens is the market doesn't go up and to the right meteorically, so then people panic and think it's all bad. They don't realize you are early in this news cycle and in cryptocurrency as a whole. And all of this news that we've spoken about today is huge news, as you say. It is incredible and I love it. And everyone just needs to realize this and really do what we say, and that is take notes and take action. So let's get into our next big piece of news that I thought was just incredible this week. This is not a golden seal of approval for Mr. Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, but it was a gangster move, and I thought it was really intelligent for him to announce on the website that they were accepting crypto for campaign donations to be able to buy the merch and all of that. And I believe the list was Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Doge, Solana, and Shiba Inu so far. I think that was the list, and I thought it was just incredible. So walk the listeners through what you think will happen to Bitcoin's prices and also the rest of the crypto market, with all of these talks that we could see a 200K Bitcoin in the coming months because of all this news and the recent news from the Trump campaign.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that was a gangster, and it was also a chess move, right?
Yeah.
It was a brilliant chess move. Is that he saw the environment, and he saw that a lot of Generation Zs and millennials are into cryptocurrency, and he saw that there was a restriction against it with the Democrats and the SEC and the current administration.
Yep.
And he saw an opportunity to go opposite of that, to gain those voters. And it could be because he really likes crypto, or it could be just a move to get voters. And it doesn't really matter, because with Trump, the type of personality that Trump has is that once he gets into something, it doesn't matter what it is, and people like him in that industry or like him in that group, he will start to champion that idea. Yep. He always hasn't in his first term. So I think that once he starts showing up at crypto conferences, and he's going to probably do it, because I think crypto is going to be a huge political point this election.
Sure.
By the time we get to November, we'll be right in this smack dab in the middle of the bull run. Yep. And it's going to be a political issue. They're going to be on the debate stage, and I could predict this, and I'm sure you can too. They will be talking about crypto on one of those debate stages eventually. Or in his next presidential election. So I think that it was a great move by him. I think that he'll eventually champion cryptocurrency, decrease regulations, talk about it more, put it on a front stage for the average American to see, and they're going to see Bitcoin go through the 100,000, 150, 200,000. Not because of that, but that's going to aid it in getting to those price points.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks really bad for the Biden camp as well, because they have to flip-flop now, because he's been fully 100%. I'll sign off on it no matter what.
All the way to
all the way. Side, and now Trump pulls this move, and now the Biden camp, if they want any chance of winning, in my opinion, they're going to have to flip-flop back and say, well, we want to keep innovation in the United States, and this is what we're going to do. And so I love this kind of ping pong match that they're in, because it only benefits all of us that are investors in the crypto space. And that's why it's such great progress for the US in general. So let's talk about a little bit more about cryptos becoming mainstream. Obviously, we've had so much good news in recent months, and now the SEC is getting backed into a corner. The governments are starting to back off, and the agencies. And I just think it's a really great step, along with everything else, for major adoption, because so much of crypto has been kind of suppressed because of the fact we haven't been able to get the mass adoption like we'd want, and that prevents And that creates a lot of naysayers coming forward. And so I think this is huge for us in the future to allow more adoption. And that's going to create more and more innovation for these smaller projects as well. So talk our listeners through your thoughts on this a little bit, and we can go from there.
Yeah, the SEC has to be in panic mode right now. I mean, they had crypto on the run for the greater part of 2-3 years, backed in a corner, SEC, people panicking and, a lot of people leaving the country even to get away from the SEC's reach. Some projects even being taken down. A lot of people getting sued over the last few years. And now all of a sudden we see a complete turn in that, right? Is that it has to be a panic in the SEC offices because they just lost a lot of power this week with the approval of the Ethereum ETF. With the approval of the FIT21, and also there's a third one is the House passed the anti-central bank digital currency Act.
Yeah, that's a big one that nobody's talking
about. That's a big one, right? Yeah. Is that basically says that the government, it hasn't passed the Senate yet, and the president still has to approve it, but it may get caught up in there. But what it says is that the U.S. government cannot create a digital currency, for the central bank digital currency. So they have to choose something that's already existing. And now the only currencies out there that are viable are cryptocurrencies. So eventually, if this passes the Senate and passes the presidency, if Trump gets elected, they will have to pick a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe even XRP, to be the central bank digital currency. So these things are causing the SEC to be in panic mode, but it's also increasing the average person's, viewpoint on cryptocurrency, right? Is that as we see it become a political issue, as we see more commercials and more, average people getting into crypto. We see that Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, which people can put into their 401ks. That's going to open it's going to be 100% adoption within the next 5 years because of what happened last week.
Yeah, this is a great episode just to really illustrate all of the advancements that the cryptocurrency space is making in 2024. And it's incredible because it just seems like it's rapid fire now. Like you said, the SEC is reeling because they just keep getting beat up. And the powers that be, the BlackRocks of the world and the ARKs and the Fidelities, they're stamping their feet on the floor and saying, this has got to go away. Here's why. Because at the end of the day, all of this fighting between the government agencies and the SEC and everybody about crypto is all going to go away because of what it does to make all of these different industries better. This disruption is going to make everything more efficient, cost effective, and just better for everyone when you think about cross-border payments, the real estate market, tokenization of real world assets. All of this is going to be great for the future, not only for the governments and the banks in the end, but for us, the retail investors first and foremost. So that's why I love it so much.
If you think about something, I want to talk a little bit, is that it actually just hit me while you were talking. This is crazy. A realization just came over me is that Bitcoin will be, once Bitcoin gets to where it's going, 5-10 years, maybe even 20 years from now, it will be the only real unmanipulated source of money in history. I mean, gold has been manipulated in history, right? People, they alter the prices or they store some somewhere or they don't let you get access to it. The government seized a lot of gold. I think it was in the 1930s or 40s. The U.S. government actually seized people's gold. It was illegal to hold gold for so many years in the U.S., so over a certain amount. So cryptocurrency, because it's, like you said, it's decentralized. It goes across borders. It's worldwide. Nobody can control that at all. Nobody can really seize it from you because they not even sure if you have it. So it probably will end up being the only real source of money in history. The only real unmanipulated third parties cannot get involved, decentralized currency in history. And that's what's going to change a lot of people's lives, and it's going to increase, I think, worldwide happiness. It's going to increase industry. It's going to just usher in a whole new world of innovation and also people just being more comfortable with their lives.
Yeah, and one of the number one points that we don't talk about enough, because we've been in this game for so long in cryptocurrency, is that the math on Bitcoin is this. There's only ever 21 million units, 21 million Bitcoin that can ever be produced. And just like $1 or $100, what everyone needs to understand is with the dollar, fiat currency, they can just keep printing more and more and more and more. And that's why it devalues. With Bitcoin, you can't do that. But to understand the flip side of it in layman's terms is people say, well, I can't afford to buy a whole Bitcoin for $70,000. You don't have to. You can buy what is a Satoshi and a fractional part of a Bitcoin for as little as $10 or $5 or $20, whatever you have. So the way to understand that is this. If one Bitcoin is 70,000 and you want to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, you can do that. And it's the same thing when you go to the bank and you want to buy a $100 bill. If you don't have the $100 bill enough to buy a $100 bill with 100 ones, then you can still buy a portion of that $100 bill, which would be a $50 bill or a $20 bill. That's what everyone needs to understand. You don't have to be rich or wealthy to get into the crypto game because all of it can be bought fractionally and get yourself in the game because you have to look at it from an ROI perspective. If one Bitcoin right now is $70,000 and it goes to $500,000 or $1 million each, do the math of what the returns are on that and stop worrying about the price. Too many people worry about the price of a crypto and they buy all the cheapest ones because they think that is better. It has nothing to do with price. It has to do with what you believe the return can be on that cryptocurrency. And that goes for any type of investment.
It's just a decimal point. That's all it is. Is that with Bitcoin, and a lot of people believe this, they'll eventually move that decimal point.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do is they're going to denominate it in Satoshis. It's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin.
Yep.
So when they denominate it as that's going to cause like a stock split. It's going to cause a new influx of money. And so when Bitcoin gets to $1 million, $2 million, we won't talk about Bitcoin being $1 million.
Nope.
We'll talk about it a lower amount, like a Satoshi is 10 cents or 5 cents or $1 or whatever it's going to be.
Yep.
So I think that's where Bitcoin is going. Just don't get caught up on, like you say, don't get caught up on the decimal point. It doesn't matter. Value is value. Percentage gains are percentage gains.
I love it. Well, this was an awesome episode, and I want to thank each and every one of you for listening and following along. You can find us on Instagram at Crypto Trends Podcast and on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. We're so excited for 2024 and beyond and sharing all of our crypto insights with all of you. And remember, if you love the podcast, please give it a share, give it a 5-star review, and we'll see you next week.